before the sun rises, before the world awakens. There is a sacred window of time that the ancient rabbis called Omuji Ashashar, the pillar of dawn. It is in this liminal space between darkness and light that the wealthiest Jewish families for generations have performed a ritual so simple, yet so powerful, that it has been passed down in whispers from father to son, from mother to daughter, protected as one guards a treasure. What I am about to reveal to you is not found in books. It was taught to me by a rabbi in Jerusalem whose grandfather's grandfather built an empire from nothing using this exact practice. And tonight, for reasons I believe are divine, it has come to you. But before we step into this sacred knowledge together, I need you to do something that will signal to the universe that you are ready for what is about to be unlocked in your life. Subscribe to Jewish Wisdom right now. This is not just about supporting a channel. This is about declaring with an action that you are serious about transformation, that you are willing to align with ancient pathways that have created wealth for millennia. Your subscription is your first act of faith in what you are about to receive. Now, write these words in the comments section. I am open to divine wealth. Do not just read them, write them. Let your fingers type what your heart needs to believe. Let this be the first seed you plant in the soil of your new financial reality. There is something you need to understand before we go any further. The reason most people remain trapped in financial mediocrity has nothing to do with their intelligence, their work ethic, or even their opportunities. It has everything to do with the first 60 minutes after they wake up. Show me how someone spends the first hour of their day, and I will show you their financial future with frightening accuracy. The morning is not just another part of your day. It is the architectural blueprint from which the entire day constructs itself. What you do in those sacred morning minutes sets frequencies, establishes patterns, and activates spiritual laws that either open the gates of abundance or seal them shut. Think about your current morning routine. Be brutally honest with yourself. You wake up, probably to an alarm that jolts you from sleep with the urgency of an emergency. Your first action is reaching for your phone, flooding your barely conscious mind with other people's agendas, with news designed to trigger anxiety, with social media that immediately places you in a posture of comparison and lack. Before your feet touch the floor, before you have taken a conscious breath, you have already surrendered your mental and spiritual sovereignty to external forces. You have handed over the creative power of your morning to chaos. Then what? You rush. You react. You move through morning tasks on autopilot, your mind already racing ahead to problems you must solve, bills you must pay, difficulties you must face. You might grab coffee, skip breakfast, or eat unconsciously, shower while mentally rehearsing conversations or worrying about deadlines. By the time you actually begin your workday, you are already depleted. You have spent your morning energy, the most potent, creative energy you possess, and anxiety, reaction, and mental clutter. And you wonder why breakthrough eludes you. You wonder why money seems to flow to others but not to you. You wonder why, despite your efforts, you remain stuck in the same financial patterns year after year. The ancient Jewish sages understood something that modern productivity experts are only beginning to rediscover. Morning is not preparation for life. Morning is life. The Talmud teaches that each morning, God returns your soul to you fresh, renewed, full of creative potential. You are not waking up to the same day. You are waking up to a new creation, a blank canvas, unlimited possibility. But most people receive this gift and immediately throw it in the garbage through unconscious, reactive morning habits. What I am about to teach you is the corrective to this tragedy. It is a morning practice so elegantly simple that you might dismiss it as too easy to be powerful. But I warn you, do not confuse simplicity with lack of potency. The most powerful truths are always simple. The most transformative practices are always accessible. If prosperity required complexity, only the intellectual elite would experience it. But God designed abundance to be available to anyone willing to align with divine order. And divine order is always simple at its core. This morning practice takes exactly 18 minutes. Not an hour, not half your morning. 18 minutes. In Jewish numerology, the number 18 corresponds to the Hebrew word chai, which means life. 18 is the number of vitality, of blessing, of connection to the living God. When you give 18 minutes of your morning to this practice, you are not sacrificing time, you are sanctifying it. You are taking ordinary minutes and transforming them into portals through which divine abundance flows into your day. But here is what makes this practice different from everything else you have tried. It is not about affirming what you want. It is about aligning with what already exists. Most prosperity teachings focus on manifestation, trying to create something that is not yet real. This practice focuses on revelation, uncovering what is already real, but hidden from your perception. There is a vast difference. Manifestation is exhausting, requiring constant mental effort to maintain belief in something you cannot see. Revelation is restful, requiring only that you open your eyes to see what has always been there. The Kabbalists teach that there are two realities operating simultaneously. There is the world of Olam Haz, this world, the realm of appearances, where lack seems real and struggle seems inevitable. And there is Olam Haba, the world to come, which is not a future world but a present dimension, the spiritual reality where abundance is constant, where all needs are already met, where the infinite resources of the Creator flow without restriction. These two worlds exist in the same space. They are separated, not by distance, but by consciousness. When your consciousness is locked into Olam Haz, you experience limitation. When your consciousness expands to perceive Olam Haba, you experience abundance. This 18-minute morning practice is the key that unlocks your consciousness from the prison of appearances and opens your perception to the reality of divine abundance. It works not by changing your circumstances, but by changing you. And when you change, your circumstances have no choice but to rearrange themselves around your new frequency. This is not theory. This is spiritual law, as reliable as gravity, as predictable as the sunrise. I learned this practice in the most unexpected way. Years ago, I was struggling financially, doing everything right, according to conventional wisdom, working hard, saving money, budgeting carefully. Your prosperity remained elusive. I met an elderly Jewish businessman at a conference, a man who radiated a peace about money that I had never seen before. When I asked him his secret, he smiled and said something I will never forget. "Young man, you are trying to create wealth. I simply receive it every morning." He taught me this practice, made me promise to do it for 40 days without skipping, and told me to come back and tell him what happened. I kept my promise. I performed this practice every morning for 40 days, even when I saw no immediate change. Even when my logical mind told me it was foolish to spend 18 minutes on something that seemed to produce nothing tangible. But by day 30, things began to shift. Not dramatically at first. Small changes. A client who had disappeared suddenly returned with a larger project. An investment I had written off as a loss suddenly became profitable. Ideas for new income streams began flowing with unusual clarity. By day 40, my financial landscape was unrecognizable. More importantly, I was unrecognizable. The anxiety about money that had been my constant companion for years had simply evaporated. I had stepped into a different relationship with abundance, and that relationship has never returned to what it was before. That was 15 years ago. I have not missed this morning practice since, and I have taught it to hundreds of people. Those who commit to it report the same pattern: internal shift followed by external manifestation. Peace about money preceding increase in money. Clarity about financial decisions before opportunities to make those decisions. The practice works because it aligns you with the way God designed prosperity to flow. And when you are aligned with divine design, struggle ceases and flow begins. Tonight, I am going to walk you through this practice step by step, minute by minute. I am going to explain why each element matters, what spiritual law it activates, and how it creates the specific internal conditions that magnetize external abundance. But more than that, I am going to give you the Hebrew prayers and declarations that carry the original power. The ancient words that have channeled divine prosperity for thousands of years. You do not need to be Jewish to access this. You do not need to speak Hebrew. You need only to be willing to try something that might seem foreign at first, but that will soon become the most natural, most essential part of your day. The practice begins before you even open your eyes. This is critical. The rabbis teach that the soul departs during sleep, ascending to receive its daily assignment, its portion of divine energy for the new day. When you wake, your soul returns. But in those first moments, you exist in a state of unusual spiritual receptivity. Your conscious mind has not yet activated its filters, its doubts, its limiting beliefs. You are open, vulnerable, impressionable, in the most sacred sense. What enters your consciousness in those first seconds literally programs the trajectory of your entire day. This is why the very first words you speak upon waking carry immense power. In Jewish tradition, there is a prayer called Modeh Ani, which means I give thanks. Before you do anything else, before you check your phone, before you think about your problems, before you even open your eyes for you, speak these words. Modeh Ani lefaneka, melek shefakayim, shehichazarta bi nishmati bet rabba eminateka, The English translation is, I give thanks before you, living and eternal King, for you have mercifully restored my soul within me. Great is your faithfulness. Let me break down why this prayer is a wealth-building technology. First, it establishes gratitude as your initial frequency. Gratitude is not just a nice emotion. It is a spiritual magnet. The Kabbalists teach that the universe operates on the principle of measure for measure. What you appreciate, appreciates. What you are grateful for, multiplies. When you begin your day with thanksgiving, you are telling the universe, I recognize abundance. I see blessing. I am attuned to increase. The universe, which is always listening, responds by giving you more of what you are acknowledging. Second, the prayer recognizes God as Melech Chivakayim, living and eternal King. This is not religious decoration. This is acknowledging the source of all provision. When you start your day by connecting to the infinite source, you bypass the limitation of finite human resources. You are saying, my supply does not come from my job, my investments, my efforts alone. My supply comes from the eternal fountain that never runs dry. This shift in awareness changes everything. You are no longer dependent on circumstances. You are connected to the source that controls circumstances. Third, the prayer says God has restored your soul with mercy. Your soul is your creative essence, your divine spark, your capacity to generate value in the world. God returns it to you fresh every morning, full of creative potential. But here is the key. It is returned, Bekimla, with mercy, with compassion. This means you do not have to earn your daily portion of spiritual energy. It is a gift. You do not have to be perfect to receive it. It comes by grace. When you understand this, you stop operating from a scarcity mindset that says you must prove your worth before you can prosper. You step into an abundance mindset that says prosperity is your birthright, given freely by a generous God. Finally, the prayer ends with Rabba Emunatika, great is your faithfulness. This declaration programs your subconscious with trust. Financial anxiety is rooted in a belief that you are alone, that provision is uncertain, that disaster could strike at any moment. This prayer rewrites that programming. It says, the one who has been faithful every morning of my life will be faithful today. The one who has never abandoned me will not start now. I can trust the process. Trust dissolves fear, and fear is the biggest blocker of prosperity. Show me someone who is constantly anxious about money, and I will show you someone whose anxiety creates the very lack they fear. Now, here is how you implement this. Before you open your eyes, while you are still in that liminal state between sleep and waking, speak Modeh Ani out loud. Do not think it. Do not recite it mentally. Speak it. Sound carries creative power. In Genesis, God spoke the world into existence. Your words, made in the image of the Creator, carry that same creative capacity. When you speak this prayer, you are not just expressing gratitude. You are calling forth a reality. You are establishing a frequency. You are setting the spiritual tone for the next 24 hours. After Modeh Ani, still before you open your eyes, take 3 deep, conscious breaths. Breathe in slowly through your nose. Hold for a moment. Exhale slowly through your mouth. As you breathe in, visualize divine light, golden and warm, entering your body. As you exhale, visualize any anxiety, any darkness, any limitation leaving your body. The Kabbalists teach that breath is the vehicle of the soul. With each conscious breath, you are drawing your returned soul deeper into your body, grounding spiritual reality in physical form. This is not meditation in the Eastern sense. This is integration, preparation, alignment. Now you open your eyes. But before you look at your phone, before you jump out of bed, you perform what I call the scan. Still lying down, you mentally scan your body from head to toe, noticing any tension, any discomfort, any blocked energy. Where you find tension, you breathe into it, consciously releasing it. This practice roots you in your physical being, preventing you from immediately dissociating into mental stress about the day ahead. Prosperity requires embodiment. You cannot receive in the spiritual realm what you cannot hold in the physical realm. Tension in your body creates resistance to flow. Release creates capacity. The scan takes about 2 minutes. Then you sit up, feet on the floor, and you speak your wealth declaration. This is not a generic affirmation. This is a personalized decree based on Deuteronomy 8:18, which says, "You shall remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you power to get wealth." Your declaration goes like this: I remember that God gives me power to create wealth. My hands are blessed. My mind is anointed. My opportunities are ordered by divine wisdom. What I touch prospers. What I speak comes to pass. I am a conduit of heaven's abundance. Money flows to me easily and frequently from expected and unexpected sources. I am blessed to be a blessing. This is my identity. This is my reality. This is my day. Speak this 3 times, with increasing conviction each time. The first time, you are informing your mind. The second time, you are convincing your heart. The third time, you are commanding your reality. By the third repetition, you should feel the words resonating in your body, activating something deep within your spirit. This is the moment when spiritual truth begins to override physical circumstances. This is when faith becomes substance. Now, still sitting on the edge of your bed, you perform what the Kabbalists call tzedakah of intention. Tzedakah means charity or righteousness. Before you have earned a single dollar today, you commit to give, not from what you have, but from what is coming. You say, before this day ends, I will be an instrument of blessing to someone. I commit to give from what God will provide today. Then you name a specific amount or action. I will give $10 to someone in need, or I will buy a meal for someone hungry, or I will give an hour of my time to serve. Be specific. The universe responds to specificity. This tzedakah of intention does something mystical. It opens the channels of receiving by activating the channels of giving. The Hebrew letter Yud, which represents divine abundance, is shaped like a hand, giving. You cannot receive with a closed fist. You must open your hand in giving to make space for receiving. When you commit to give before you receive, you are demonstrating to the spiritual realm that you understand the law of circulation. You are showing that you trust supply enough to commit to distribution before the supply has even arrived. This level of faith triggers divine response. We are now 8 minutes into the practice. You stand up, and here is where the practice becomes unusual, but profoundly powerful. You go to your window. Every home has at least one window and you open it. If weather permits, you open it wide. If not, you simply crack it. Then you face the direction of the sunrise, even if the sun has not yet risen, or if clouds obscure it. You stand there, hands open at your sides, palms facing forward, and you receive the day. The rabbis teach that each morning, creation renews itself. It is not that God created the world once and now it runs on autopilot. No. Creation is continuous. Each morning, the same divine power that spoke, "Let there be light" on the first day speaks again, calling forth a new day, releasing new energy, providing new opportunities. When you stand at your window with open hands facing the direction of sunrise, you are positioning yourself to receive that fresh creative power. You stand there in silence for 3 minutes. 3 minutes is longer than you think. Your mind will try to wander. Let it. Do not fight your thoughts. Simply return your attention to your breath, to the sensation of standing, to the awareness that you are receiving something real, even if you cannot see it. This is an exercise in receptivity, in openness, in trust. Most people spend their entire lives in a posture of striving, grasping, struggling to make things happen. This 3 minutes trains you in the opposite posture, receiving, allowing, trusting that what you need is coming to you. After 3 minutes, you close the window but remain standing. Now you speak the Aaronic blessing from Numbers 6:24 to 26. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. But you speak it not as a general prayer. You speak it over your finances. The Lord bless my income and keep it growing. The Lord shine his favor on my business and be gracious to my efforts. The Lord turn his attention toward my financial needs and give me peace about money. This blessing has been spoken over Jewish people for over 3,000 years. It carries accumulated spiritual power. Each time it has been spoken by a rabbi, by a parent over a child, by a person over themselves. It has charged the words with more energy. When you speak it now, you are tapping into that reservoir. You are joining your voice to millions of voices across millennia, all calling down divine blessing. The words themselves become a portal through which that blessing flows. We are now 14 minutes into the 18-minute practice, and we arrive at what I consider the most powerful component, the Hebrew wealth code. There is a phrase in Hebrew that, when spoken with intention, activates a specific frequency of prosperity. The phrase is, Barak, Ata, no time lanu koch lasat cheo. It means, blessed are you, Lord, who gives us the strength to create wealth. This is not a wish or a hope. It is a declaration of present reality. God is giving you, right now, the strength to create wealth. But here is what you must understand. The Hebrew language is not like other languages. In Hebrew, Letters are numbers, words are equations, and sentences are formulas. Each letter carries a specific vibration, a unique frequency. When you combine letters into words, you are not just communicating meaning. You are combining frequencies, creating spiritual harmonics. When you speak Hebrew, words especially, the sacred names of God embedded in prayers, you are performing spiritual technology, activating invisible forces that shape visible reality. The phrase I just gave you contains within its Hebrew letters a numerical value that corresponds to abundance. When you speak it, you are literally vibrating at the frequency of prosperity. This is not superstition. This is quantum spirituality. Modern physics tells us that everything is vibration. Different states of matter are simply different rates of vibration. Poverty and wealth are different vibrational states. When you consistently vibrate at the frequency of wealth through your thoughts, your words, your emotions, your external reality must eventually match your internal frequency. This is law, as certain as the law of gravity. So here is what you do. Standing in front of your window, you repeat the Hebrew phrase 3 times. Barak ata Adonai, Notain, Lanu, Koshlosat, Chile. Do not worry about perfect pronunciation. Your sincerity matters more than your accuracy. As you speak, place one hand over your heart and one hand over your abdomen. Your heart is the seat of emotion, your abdomen, the seat of will. By placing hands on both, you are connecting feeling and action, heart and gut, desire and decision. You are unifying your entire being around this one truth. God gives you strength to create wealth. After the 3rd repetition, you make a specific financial request. Not a vague wish like I want to be rich, a specific request. I need $3,000 by the end of this month for this specific purpose. Or I need clarity about which business opportunity to pursue. Or, I need the courage to ask for the raise I deserve. Whatever your current financial need is, name it clearly. God already knows your need, but speaking it clarifies it for you. It transforms a vague anxiety into a concrete request. And concrete requests receive concrete answers. But here is the discipline that separates those who experience breakthrough from those who simply go through motions. After you make your request, you must release it. This is perhaps the hardest part of the entire practice. You have stated your need clearly. Now, you let it go. You do not spend the rest of your day obsessing over it, worrying about how it will come, trying to force solutions. You trust that your request has been heard, that the answer is already in motion, that your role now is simply to remain open and obedient to guidance. The Talmud teaches a principle. When a person sanctifies himself a little below, he is sanctified much from above. What this means is that your small act of faith triggers a disproportionately large divine response. Your 18 minutes of morning practice is your small sanctification. Heaven's response will be much greater than the time and effort you invested. But you must release the outcome. Desperation repels prosperity. Trust attracts it. When you can state your need and then go about your day in peace, you have mastered the art of faithful expectation. Now we move to the final 4 minutes of the practice, and this is where most people want to skip ahead. But this is actually the most important part. You sit down in your bed, on a chair, wherever is comfortable, and you do what the mystics call hippadut, which means self-seclusion or personal conversation with God. For 4 minutes, you speak to God as you would speak to a trusted friend. No formal prayers, no religious language, just honest conversation. You tell God about your financial fears. You confess your doubts about whether this practice will really work. You admit your frustration at how long breakthrough is taking. You share your dreams about what you would do with abundance. You ask questions. You listen for answers, which come not as audible voices but as intuitive nudges, as sudden insights, as peace about a decision. These 4 minutes are relationship building, and prosperity flows through relationship with the divine more than through any technique. Here is what happens during these 4 minutes that you cannot see. Angels are being assigned. Doors are being unlocked. Divine appointments are being scheduled. People who will be instrumental in your financial breakthrough are being prepared to cross your path. Resources that seemed unavailable are being released. Obstacles that appeared immovable are being removed. All of this happens in the invisible realm while you simply sit and talk with God. Your conscious awareness of it is not required. Your faith that it is happening is. Write this in the comments. I trust the invisible work of my morning practice. Let this be your anchor when nothing seems to be changing. When days go by without visible breakthrough, the most important work is always invisible before it becomes visible. A seed works underground long before the sprout appears. Your morning practice is planting seeds in the invisible realm every single day. Trust the process. When the 4 minutes end, you close with one final declaration. This day is blessed. I walk in divine favor. I am aligned with heaven's abundance. Doors open before me. Provision flows to me. I lack nothing. So be it. Then you begin your day not with anxiety about whether you did the practice correctly, not with desperate straining to see if it worked, but with quiet confidence that you have done your part and heaven will do its part. Now, let me address the practical questions you are probably asking. What if I am not a morning person? What if I have to wake up at 4 a.m. for work and I am barely conscious? Here is the truth. You do not have to be a morning person to do this practice. You do not have to be fully awake. In fact, that slightly groggy state is actually ideal because your rational mind has not yet activated its skepticism. Just commit to doing the practice before you do anything else. Before phone, before coffee, before shower. The practice itself will wake you up far more effectively than caffeine ever could. What if I miss a day? Does that ruin everything? No. You simply begin again the next morning. This is not a magic spell that breaks if you mess up the formula. This is a relationship building practice. If you miss a conversation with a friend, you do not declare the friendship over. You simply have the next conversation. Same principle applies here. Grace covers imperfection. Consistency matters more than perfection. What if I do not see results immediately? This is perhaps the most important question. The rabbis teach that there are 3 levels of prayer. Prayer that is answered immediately, prayer that is stored up and answered later, and prayer that is answered in ways we do not recognize. All 3 are at work simultaneously. Some of your morning practice will produce visible results within days. Some will produce results months from now, when you have forgotten you even asked. And some will produce results in forms so different from what you expected that you will not recognize them as answers to your prayers. Your job is not to track results obsessively. Your job is to remain faithful to the practice, to show up every morning, to do your 18 minutes regardless of what your circumstances look like. This is spiritual discipline, and discipline is simply choosing what you want most over what you want now. Right now, you might want to sleep an extra 18 minutes, but what you want most is financial breakthrough. The discipline is choosing breakthrough over comfort, consistently, daily, until the practice becomes so natural that it requires no discipline at all. Let me tell you about Rachel. She was drowning in debt, working 2 jobs, barely sleeping, convinced that her financial situation would never change. A friend told her about this morning practice, and Rachel's first response was, "I do not have 18 minutes to spare. I am already exhausted." But something inside her whispered that maybe exhaustion was precisely why she needed this practice. Maybe the reason she had no time was because she was not starting her days correctly. Maybe she was spending 18 hours running in the wrong direction, when 18 minutes in the right direction would change everything. Rachel committed to 40 days of the practice. Nothing magical about 40 days, except that it is long enough to establish a new neural pathway. Long enough for a habit to become automatic. Long enough for skepticism to give way to experience. The first week was brutal. Her alarm went off 18 minutes earlier than usual, and every cell in her body screamed to hit snooze. But she had made a commitment, and there was something inside Rachel that was tired of breaking commitments to herself. She stumbled through the practice those first days. Her mind wandering, her body resisting, doubt whispering that this was silly, that ancient Jewish practices could not possibly affect her modern American bank account. But she kept going. By week 2, something shifted. She noticed she was approaching her day differently, less reactive, more intentional. Small financial grace began appearing. An overdraft fee was reversed by the bank for no apparent reason. A side project she thought was dead suddenly revived with a new client. Nothing dramatic, but enough to make her curious. By week 4, Rachel realized something profound. Her anxiety about money had decreased significantly, even though her actual financial situation had not yet changed dramatically. She was sleeping better. She was making clearer decisions. She was noticing opportunities she had been too stressed to see before. The peace she experienced during her 80-minute practice was beginning to extend throughout her day. And peace, she discovered, is fertile soil in which prosperity grows. The breakthrough came in week 6. Rachel had been praying specifically during her morning practice for a better-paying job that would allow her to quit her second job and have more time with her children. During one of her Hitbadut sessions, she felt a strong impression to reach out to a former colleague she had not spoken with in 2 years. It made no logical sense, but the impression was clear. She obeyed. That former colleague had just been promoted to a management position and was looking to fill a role in her department. The job paid 30% more than Rachel's current position and offered remote work flexibility. Rachel got the job. But here is what moved Rachel most. It was not just the job. It was who she had become in the process of showing up for 18 minutes every morning for 40 days. She had developed discipline. She had strengthened her faith. She had learned to hear divine guidance. She had proven to herself that she could commit to something even when she did not feel like it, even when results were not immediate, even when her circumstances screamed that nothing was working. These internal victories were more valuable than the external financial breakthrough, because internal transformation is what sustains external change. Rachel told me later, the morning practice did not just change my finances, it changed me. And the changed me attracted different opportunities, made different choices, walked through different doors. I am the same person with the same skills, but I am operating at a different frequency now. And that frequency is prosperity. This is what I need you to understand. The morning practice I have taught you tonight is not a gimmick. It is not a shortcut. It is not a way to avoid work or responsibility. It is a recalibration tool. It is a daily reset button that aligns you with divine order. And when you are aligned with divine order, you do not have to chase prosperity. Prosperity chases you. You do not have to force doors open. Doors open before you. You do not have to convince people to give you opportunities. Opportunities find you. But transformation requires commitment, and commitment requires support. This is why I want to tell you about the Jewish Wisdom eBook, a comprehensive resource that expands on everything we have explored tonight and takes you deeper into the ancient Hebrew secrets of wealth. If you are resonating with what you have learned, if something inside you is awakening to the realization that these practices are not religious rituals but spiritual technologies, then the ebook is your next step on this journey. Inside the Jewish Wisdom ebook, you will find detailed explanations of Hebrew prayers for prosperity, Kabbalistic meditations for wealth consciousness, Talmudic wisdom on business and finance, and practical applications of biblical principles to modern money management. You will discover additional morning practices for specific financial challenges: debt elimination, business growth, investment wisdom, generational wealth. You will learn the Hebrew names of God that correspond to different aspects of provision and how to invoke them in your daily life. This is not theory. This is actionable wisdom that has created wealth for thousands of years. The link to the Jewish Wisdom ebook is in the description of this video and in the first pinned comment. Consider this: if you invest in learning these ancient pathways to prosperity, and if even one principle from the ebook produces a breakthrough in your finances, what is the return on that investment? Not just in money, though that will come, but in peace, in confidence, in the ability to provide for those you love, in freedom from the constant anxiety that has stolen your joy for far too long. But whether or not you choose to go deeper with the ebook, I want to answer a question that might be in your mind. Why do these practices work? What is the mechanism? Is it psychology? Is it spirituality? Is it quantum physics? The answer is yes to all three, because those are not separate categories. They are different languages describing the same reality. Psychologically, the morning practice reprograms your subconscious mind, which controls 95% of your behavior. Your subconscious operates on patterns established through repetition. Every morning you perform this practice, you are weakening old neural pathways of scarcity and strengthening new neural pathways of abundance. Over time, thoughts and behaviors that support prosperity become automatic, requiring no willpower. Spiritually, the practice opens channels between heaven and earth. Think of it like tuning a radio. Divine abundance is always broadcasting, but most people are tuned to the wrong frequency. The morning practice is the tuning mechanism. It adjusts your spiritual receiver so you can pick up the broadcast. The broadcast never stopped. You were simply unable to receive it until you tuned your receiver correctly. Quantum mechanically, the practice collapses probability waves into favorable outcomes. Quantum physics tells us that multiple potential realities exist simultaneously, until observation collapses them into one actual reality. Your focused attention during the morning practice is a form of observation that collapses potential realities into the specific reality of prosperity. You are literally calling forth, through conscious attention and intention, the version of reality where you are financially blessed. But here is what matters more than understanding the mechanism. Does it work? And the answer, testified to by generations of practitioners, is yes. It works. Not because it is magic. Not because it manipulates God. but because it aligns you with the way God designed prosperity to flow. And when you are aligned with divine design, when you are swimming with the current rather than against it, when you are positioned in the flow rather than fighting the flow, abundance becomes natural, inevitable, unstoppable. Now, I need you to do something. In the comments, answer this question honestly. What would change in my life if money was no longer a source of anxiety? Think about it. Really think about it. Because that is what is at stake here. Not just more money in your account, though that will come, but freedom from the mental and emotional prison that financial worry creates. Freedom to make decisions based on purpose rather than desperation. Freedom to be generous. Freedom to pursue calling. Freedom to live as you were designed to live. Your answer to that question reveals what is truly at stake. And when you see what is truly at stake, you will find the motivation to commit to 18 minutes every morning for the next 40 days. Because 18 minutes is a small price to pay for freedom. 18 minutes is nothing compared to the hours you currently spend worrying about money, stressing about bills, losing sleep over financial pressure. As we close this sacred time together, I want to leave you with a truth that will anchor everything we have explored. Your financial situation right now is not a verdict on your worth, your intelligence, or your future. It is simply data about where you currently are, and where you currently are has nothing to do with where you are going. The morning practice I have taught you tonight is a compass that reorients you from where you are toward where God is calling you to be. And where God is calling you to be is always a place of greater abundance, greater impact, greater blessing. But the compass only works if you use it. I could give you the most sophisticated navigational tool ever created, but if you leave it in a drawer, it will not help you find your destination. The morning practice is your tool. 18 minutes is your investment. 40 days is your commitment. The question is not whether this will work. The question is whether you will work it. There is a teaching in the Talmud that says, everything is in the hands of heaven except the fear of heaven. What this means is that God controls outcomes, but you control your response. You cannot control whether money comes today or next week. You cannot control whether the job offer appears tomorrow or next month. You cannot control whether the debt is cancelled now or later. Those outcomes are in God's hands. But you can control whether you show up for your 18 minutes. You can control whether you speak the prayers with faith or with doubt. You can control whether you remain consistent or give up when results are not immediate. Your consistency is your offering to heaven. Your faithfulness to the practice is your declaration that you trust God more than you trust your circumstances. That you believe divine truth more than you believe financial reports. That you are committed to alignment even when alignment has not yet produced visible fruit. And here is what heaven does with your offering. It multiplies it. Your small faithfulness triggers large favor. Your consistent 18 minutes releases divine resources that you could never access through your own effort alone. I want to tell you what will happen if you commit to this practice for 40 days without missing a single morning. You will become a different person, not in personality, but in frequency. Not in appearance, but in essence. You will radiate something that people cannot name but that they feel when they are around you. Opportunities will come to you that make no logical sense based on your qualifications. Doors will open that you did not even know existed. Resources will flow from sources you never anticipated. And most importantly, peace about money will become your new normal. Not carelessness, but confidence. Not presumption, but assurance. Not anxiety disguised as responsible planning, but genuine rest in divine provision. But you must start. And starting means doing it tomorrow morning. Not reading more about it. Not thinking about whether you believe it. Not waiting until your schedule is less busy, or your life is less chaotic. Tomorrow morning, set your alarm 18 minutes earlier than usual. When it goes off, do not negotiate with yourself. Do not tell yourself you will do it later. Do not let your mind run through all the reasons why you are too tired or too busy. Just get up and do the practice exactly as I have laid it out for you. The first morning will be the hardest. Your body will resist. Your mind will question. Doubt will whisper. That is normal. That is your old patterns fighting for survival. But you have a choice in that moment. You can listen to the voice of limitation that has kept you stuck for years, or you can choose the voice of possibility that has brought you to this moment. I am telling you right now, as someone who has walked this path and who has watched hundreds of others walk it successfully, choose possibility. Choose faith. Choose the 18 minutes. By morning 3 or 4, it will become easier. By week 2, you will notice shifts. By week 4, you will wonder how you ever functioned without this practice. By day 40, it will be as natural as breathing, as essential as eating, as automatic as your heartbeat. And your financial reality will be different. Not because you worked harder, not because you got lucky, but because you aligned yourself with the flow of divine abundance every single morning. And that flow transformed you from the inside out. Let me give you one final instruction. The seal on everything we have learned tonight. At the end of your 40 days, I want you to write down 3 specific ways your relationship with money has changed. Not 3 windfalls you received, though those might come, but 3 internal shifts. Perhaps you will notice you think about money less obsessively. Perhaps you will realize you are making wiser financial decisions with less stress. Perhaps you will observe that opportunities are appearing more frequently. Write down these 3 shifts and keep them as testimony, as evidence that the ancient pathways still work, that the Hebrew secrets still produce results, that the morning practice still changes lives. And then, share this message with someone else who needs it. Prosperity is meant to be multiplied, not hoarded. Blessing is designed to flow through you, not just to you. When you become a conduit of these truths, when you help someone else discover the morning practice, you deepen your own prosperity. The Kabbalists teach that teaching is the highest form of learning. When you teach these principles to another person, you embed them more deeply in your own consciousness. And heaven releases more resources to you so that you have more to teach. This is not the end of our journey together. This is the beginning. You have received ancient wisdom tonight that has the power to restructure your entire financial reality. But wisdom without application is just information, and information without transformation is entertainment. You did not come this far to be entertained. You came for breakthrough. You came for change. You came because something inside you knows that you were designed for more than financial struggle. That abundance is your birthright. That prosperity is your inheritance. The morning practice is your key to that inheritance. 18 minutes is your daily investment in your financial future. 40 days is your covenant with transformation. The Hebrew prayers are your access code to divine resources. The discipline is your demonstration of faith. And faith, the Bible tells us, is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not yet seen. Your faith, expressed through consistent action, will become substance. Your hope, anchored in ancient truth, will become evidence. And the prosperity that seems invisible now will become visible soon. So here is my final charge to you. Wake up tomorrow morning and begin. Do not wait for perfect conditions. Do not demand to see the whole staircase before you take the first step. Just take the first step. Do the 18 minutes. Speak the prayers. Release the request. Trust the process. And then do it again the next morning, and the next, and the next. For 40 mornings, show heaven that you are serious about alignment, committed to transformation, willing to do your part so that God can do his part. And when the breakthrough comes in, it will come. Remember this moment. Remember that change began not with a lottery ticket, not with a lucky break, not with perfect timing, but with a decision to invest 18 minutes every morning in aligning with ancient wisdom. Remember that prosperity flowed not because you manipulated God, but because you positioned yourself in the flow of what God was already releasing. Remember that the transformation happened not through magic, but through the discipline of showing up, speaking truth, and trusting divine faithfulness. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace and prosperity, and abundance, and the wisdom to steward it all for his glory and for the blessing of those around you. May your mornings be filled with divine presence. May your days be ordered by heavenly wisdom. May your finances reflect the generosity of a God who withholds no good thing from those who walk uprightly. Begin tomorrow. Commit to 40 days. Trust the ancient pathways. And watch what heaven does when you simply show up, morning after morning, declaring alignment, releasing faith, and opening your life to the abundance that has been waiting for you all along. Amen and amen.